Welcome to the Big Picture webinar on pricing and positioning. Of course, in the big picture, when we talk about pricing, we're talking about value. And in particular, we're interested in the relationship between value creation and value capture. Many marketers think of pricing as only involved in the value capture part of the equation. But what we're going to talk about today is that pricing can be a crucial component of both value creation and value capture, and that one feeds the other. So let's take a look at the strategic quadrants. These should be familiar to everybody who's familiar with the big picture. What we want to focus on today is how we're going to leverage pricing in our customer focus to either achieve learning with regard to acquisition of new customers or transformation when we're thinking about retaining our existing customers. When we think about our competitive focus, what we're concerned with is the perceived value premium that we will be trying to generate when we're stimulating demand, and the differentiation premium, which will be our focus when we're earning share. We're going to talk about these concepts using 4 cases today: Prezi, Amazon, the Kindle Fire, Ray Supermarkets, and John Deere. So let's start with the acquisition stimulate demand quadrant. Here our objective is to leverage pricing to generate awareness and introduce and communicate our perceived value. These may seem like communications goals, but we're going to look at how pricing can be leveraged to accomplish these objectives. So, Prezi. This is the tool that I'm using right now to make this presentation. This product sits squarely in the acquisition stimulate demand quadrant. It is a new-to-the-world product, and in positioning this product, the firm has not compared it to other products. So let's look at the Prezi introductory video.
You make presentations to share ideas, showcase work, or even to persuade your audience to do something. But what used to be a great opportunity has turned into a dreadful experience for you and your audience. The reason? Boring presentations. That's where Prezi comes in. In Prezi, you create and present your ideas on a large canvas like a whiteboard, instead of traditional slides. You can easily place ideas, images, and videos and arrange them in a natural flow to tell your story. When you're presenting, Prezi lets you zoom in to emphasize a detail or zoom out to see the big picture. Now the audience can see the whole story as well as the details, and they're more likely to remember your work, ideas, or be persuaded to do something. The best part? You can start a Prezi now for a presentation you have tomorrow. In just a few clicks, you can bring presentations back to life.
Okay, so this is Prezi. And one of the interesting things about this particular video is at the very end they say, the best part about this is that you can start right now. It's an invitation. And this is key to this product because it is an experience good. It needs to be experienced in order to be appreciated, and it needs to be experienced in order for us to enhance perceived value. So there are a long list of values that Prezi lists on its websites, but we're going to go with this first positioning. We help people share ideas. So the notion here is enablement and community collaboration. So let's look at how they leverage pricing in order to pull this off. It's pretty straightforward. When you want someone to experience your product, you give it away. Now, what's interesting about this particular sampling strategy is that your trial version of this software, as we'll call it, is not limited in time or not limited in terms of functionality. So you are getting the full Prezi experience from the beginning so that all of the perceived value will be generated as you experience the Prezi. So you get all the core features, you get sufficient storage space to do quite a number of Prezis, and you can start immediately. As the value gets created for this product, the next step up is the subscription, $59 a year. In this particular case, you get the core features, but we are adding additional benefits: more storage space, privacy, customization, and support. So when people make the move from 0 to 59, they have experienced an increase in perceived value from trying the product, and they also feel that they're getting something additional by moving to the Prezi license. From there, the power users may choose to move to Pro, which is $159 a year. This involves an increase in storage space and the ability to use the Prezi Desktop, which is the offline program for Prezi. So a clear movement from 0 to 59 to 159, linked to an increase in perceived value because of experience of the product and additional features. Now, importantly, Prezi has distinct pricing for educators. Some people might refer to this as price discrimination, suggesting that educators have less money and are therefore more price sensitive. But I would like to suggest another theory of this, which is the fact that educators are most likely to disseminate information about Prezi. So in order to get the network effects that Prezi is looking for, increasing the probability that educators will use this product and use it deeply and in an embedded way is a crucial trial strategy, not just for the educators, but for the Prezi community at large. So you can see here that the Educators Pro license is $100 less per year, encouraging educators to move very quickly and very deeply into Prezi. So that's how Prezi leverages price in order to accomplish the objectives of awareness and communicating perceived value. From there, let's move down to our friends at Amazon and think about acquisition earned share. Now remember, when we're doing acquisition earned share, our target customers are already in the category, and they very likely already have a benchmark. So our emphasis here with pricing is to communicate and introduce relative value and actually invite feature and benefit comparisons that link to our positioning and to our strategy. So what I want to talk about is Amazon, and in particular, the Kindle Fire, which is one of Amazon's acquisition products. Amazon leverages the Kindle Fire to invite people to experience the overall Amazon relationship. And this is one of the reasons why the Kindle Fire is priced so aggressively. Let's take a look at the Kindle Fire.
The instruction we find in books is like fire. We fetch it from our neighbors, kindle it at home, communicate it to others, and it becomes property of all. From Kindle, fire is born. A Kindle for movies, music, web, games, and reading. Kindle Fire.
So there's the Kindle Fire. Interestingly, it looks a little bit like the iPad. But the emphasis for the Fire is on reading, and that is reflective of the Amazon positioning. So if we think of the Kindle Fire as a feature of Amazon, it is a feature that promotes Amazon's core benefit, which has to do with books. So here's a side-by-side comparison to the iPad. Several advantages, certainly in price and in weight, but most importantly, the emphasis is on reading. A huge advantage versus the iPad, specifically with regard to reading. So we've leveraged a low price on this device to expose people not just to the Kindle Fire, but more importantly, to the Amazon relationship. All right, so that's acquisition earned share and using pricing to emphasize certain points about our product. From there, let's move over to retention earned share, where we're talking to multi-brand users, people who are using our product plus someone else's. And what we're going to talk about is Supermercado Rey, a national grocery chain in Panama, where we've managed to collect about 10 years worth of data on pricing and perceived value. So in this quadrant, what we're interested in is reinforcing relative value amongst our existing customers and enhancing relative value so that our customers will choose to value our product or services more than those of the other products that they're buying. So let's look at Ray's positioning.
Supermercados Rey. Fresco, siempre fresco.
Very simple, very straightforward, fresh. Now, when Ray implemented this policy and this positioning, they recognized that certain of their products were better examples of the freshness positioning than others, just as certain aspects of the Kindle Fire are better examples of the reading positioning. So when they implemented their pricing strategy, they took this into account and developed what they called the freshness index. At the far left, we have detergent, which really does not really get a lot of its benefit from freshness. Paper towels, same thing. As we move up to the right, items such as cheese, fruits and vegetables, and of course meats received a higher premium at Ray versus the competition because they had a higher component of freshness as a part of their product benefit. This pricing strategy was leveraged throughout the store in Ray. Identify the parity price and then premium price based on the freshness index. As a result, Ray was able to increase their prices and, very importantly, increase perceived value. So customers did feel that they were paying more at Ray for products, but the products they were paying more for were the products that had more to offer to consumers who valued freshness. As a result, Ray was able to establish a much higher premium for their fresh products, and as a result also increase their revenues, profitability, and market share. So for pricing in retention, earn share, we want to identify what our positioning is and then make sure that our products are priced to reflect and reinforce that positioning. All right, let's move into the final quadrant, retention, stimulate demand. And here we're going to talk about the objectives of reinforcing perceived value and enhancing perceived value. So we're going to talk about John Deere. And this is a company in the B2B space who has created a stunning brand and consumer relationship. Now let's take a look at a video that's posted on the web for John Deere. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just take a look at it and get a feel for how they're trying to establish themselves. Okay, I encourage you to go and watch the rest of that video. But what I want to emphasize here is price is not just initial purchase price. Price is three elements. There is the cost of acquiring the product, which is the initial purchase price. But more importantly, particularly in this quadrant, there's the cost of using the product and possessing the product. These three components of cost are not considered equally in this quadrant. Initial purchase price, which might be crucial for acquisition, is now less important than use or possession cost. And in the John Deere video, what we saw was an emphasis on components that had an impact on perceived use costs and perceived possession cost, reliability, residual value, and service and support. When we are in the retention quadrant, we are going to focus much more on use and possession cost and not nearly as much on initial purchase price. Okay, 4 cases, 4 quadrants, 4 ways to leverage price to both create and capture value. Now, I want to emphasize that while we have been talking about positioning and pricing, if you remember, pricing is pervasive. We are going to be thinking about pricing from the beginning to the end of the big picture. But when we think about pricing with relation to positioning, we want to ask ourselves a couple of really, really key questions. First of all, for positioning, we cannot set the price of our product until we have asked ourselves, what is the optimal positioning? And particularly in the cases of retention, can I deliver on the promise of that positioning? Once we have done that, we can move to pricing, which to my mind is really a test. When you set the price of your product, you are testing your faith in your product and positioning. And then, of course, you're testing the market response to your product and positioning. And when you get feedback from the market regarding your pricing, you have 2 choices. You can change your pricing in response to that feedback, either up or down, or you can choose to change your positioning, which will affect the perceived value of the product as well. So value is pricing and positioning, and as marketers, we're in the business of creating value and then capturing it. If we forget either side of that equation when we're going through the pricing process, we're going to be in trouble. All right, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you'd like to review the Prezi, you can go to this link right here, and it's public, so you can go ahead and take a look at it. And we will be doing further webinars and webcasts about once a month. So please, if you can, go to LinkedIn, post your comments, requests for topics, and we'll engage in the process of continuous improvement and try to give you guys some great knowledge going forward. Thanks a lot.